Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show to talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of The Cleaning Lady. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, that opening. I think it's got, well, for one, obviously, it makes sense in the context of, like, they showed you that beginning, everything in the Philippines a year ago, just so you know, like, right, it came as no surprise when Marco did what he did. I'm actually a little surprised he waited as long as he did. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, but it's like, as the episode was progressing, you're like, yeah, that's probably going to be the stinger. You could also tell, like, it's running through his mind about it, especially later on when Tony's like, oh, we should talk about it. You're like, oh, that digs a little deep, because he was like, he was begging you not to go. It's like, no, we can go to the U.S. together, but we have to, like, go. She wants to go now, and he's like, no, we just wait for my visa to come through. So, you know, like, it's been rummaging through his mind for a while now, that, like, he's resented her quite a bit, because it's like, right, I don't care what your reason is. Yes, I get it, you're trying to save our son, but you're also trying to get away from me. Tony would probably never admit that out loud, but she did explain it to Fiona, like, last episode or episode before last. It's like, things got super bad with Marco. Like, his addictions and stuff like that, his gambling, like, was ruining their lives. So, her wanting a fresh start, not only to help Luca, but also to get away from him. She still loves him, but that's the complicated thing of, like, yeah, but my love for you is, it's complicated because it's like, right, you're actively sabotaging everything. Like, yes, he saved some money for Luca. Doesn't matter. He even said, like, oh, I was up $100,000. He couldn't walk away. Who's to say the next time Luca's going to need some money that he can bring himself to set aside some money? Like, he'll be like, yeah, but, like, how can Tony trust you when you took the money that was supposed to be? Yeah, no. He's like, no worry. I even gave you $5,000. On top of that, like Tony said, like, they lost so much in the process of losing their home. He owed so many people money. They lost their friends. It's like, no wonder she's also debating on whether going back to the Philippines or not, because it's like, if we go back to the Philippines, we're going to be in that same cycle again. But once again, it's just like Marco whether he wants to admit it or not, there's a part of him that, like, by bringing Luca back to the Philippines, now, like, I think it's also like, right, Tony's going to have to come to us. I think it's kind of what he's thinking. But it's also like, right, my son should be home because I want to be, like, not saying, it wasn't like Tony was like, you got to leave and go back to the Philippines. It's like, no, we can talk about this and discuss staying. Like, she was setting stuff up. We'll get to that later on at the end of everything. But, like, I get where Marco's coming from, but it was also a very vindictive move. He can't claim there was no venom behind that choice. It was to pay her back for what she did to him a year ago. It's like, you took my son away from me. I had to go through hoops just to get there. It's like, who knows how long they would have actually had to wait for the paperwork to go through, especially if it took him, like, a year to get to the U.S. on him, like, himself. But it's also probably because she took whatever money. Like, who knows what he was up. Like, that's why I'm like, there's probably extra reason behind that. I was under the impression, like, how he was able to make it work is he probably owes he probably still owes people some money. So that's probably that situation didn't disappear already because of his gambling. But I thought that's how he was able to expedite his getting to the U.S. was because I don't know. It's his home and everything, and I get it. You don't want to leave your home behind, even though your sister and your niece and nephew are here too. Like, you would think you'd want to stay, but, you know, once again, we know the way Marco was talking to Fiona last episode, he's got some spice towards her. So it's like, Fiona's got her complications with her family as well, and it just seems like Marco sides with their parents more than he did her. So it's like, there's some spice there that I'm sure adds to, like, him not wanting to be here. But that's a whole thing within itself. But obviously Tony's in front of Russo and Garrett, and it's like, okay, so this is how it is. You help us take down the entire operation, or you go to jail. This ain't about deportation anymore. And don't look to Miller. He's going to lose his job at the end of all of this too. So that's your choice. You get to check on your family and stuff like that. So now everyone's in the know. Marco knows. And that's also other thing too, because he's like, oh, you're too much of a danger to our family. It's like, yeah, like, you're not a danger to Marco. But he'll probably justify it by being like, my addiction isn't as bad as getting mixed up in the criminal world. To be fair, that criminal world did benefit her in the long run because she was able to get her son the treatment he needed. Like, Armand did help every step of the way. You helped in your own way, but it's also like your way almost kind of threatened them to lose the money they needed. You know, so it's, you know. So ultimately, like I said, like even Fiona was like, right, let Tony handle this, which even he's like, no, you should have like let me know. And she's like, what will have let you know done? You couldn't do anything. Yeah, but he's like, right, but because he was already feeling it, like, you're cutting me out of your life. Like, you told me about the Armand situation, you didn't tell me about the FBI. So once again, it's like kind of proving yourself untrustworthy. So, but also it's like there's a little bit of an ego, because he's also like, oh, Tony's choosing that guy over me. We're married, you know. It's like, Armand's kind of in the same space, because Nadia doesn't appreciate Tony rolling up, and it's like, oh, your little boy's okay, good. So you have no connection to my husband, and it's like, oh, and luckily Armand was like, oh, Tony, can we come in the back? And it's like, and Nadia's like, what are you doing? He's like, just give me a second, just por favor, you know. It's like, oh, that's always going to complicate things, because there is something there. Neither one of them can deny it anymore, but like, they didn't sleep together. So it's like, right, you know, but it's, you know, it's still kind of tiptoeing in that unfaithful area, but it's still that thing of Armand feels like, once again, maybe Nadia is right about him wanting to play hero, or maybe it's just like because of their backgrounds, maybe he finds a commonality. Maybe Nadia didn't come from a similar background like him and Tony did, so maybe there's some, like, he sees a lot of himself in Tony, so maybe that's always kind of been my thought. But maybe there is a little bit what Nadia says of wanting to play hero, the way she looks at you, like you're the one who helped her, you're a hero, you're a savior in certain regards. So maybe there's a little bit of that. But obviously Tony lets him know, it's like, right, the FBI knows about the guns and everything, and it's like, okay, he's like, how did they know that? Granted, Garrett found that out on his own, but and it's like, all right, he's like, I got to make this deal, because he made things clear with Hayek. Because I didn't know what Hayek, like, meant that whole Carlos thing as. It's like, no, I got your signal. It's like, so Hayek saw through it. He knew that Armand knew that, like, oh, you knew that I'm the one that tried to kill you. You were just trying to save face. But it's like, no, I saw through you, kid, so... Yeah, I sent a message to be like, yeah, it was me. You're looking for Carlos. This is Carlos. Yeah, he could have kept up the pretenses, but he didn't. Because I was like, did he make it seem like they did it? The people Armand was pretending did it, but it's like, no. Hayek was like, no need for pretenses. We both know the truth about each other. So it's like, right, you're trying to make this deal behind my back. It's like, yeah, but you betrayed me the moment you left the club to Isabel and her husband. He was like, what do you have, Armand? You have nothing. You are nothing. He's like, I had the deal. The buyer, Noah, he's only going to work with me. So, how about this? I give you the $6 million from the deal. Me and Nadia work the club until it's finished, and then we walk away and we're out. That $6 million is enough to spare our lives. And so he makes that deal. But he can't sell the guns now, because it's like, all right, the FBI wants him. So it's like, okay, so what do we do? And it's like, all right. And Tony's like, if you don't do this, they're going to arrest me too. So it's like, we're all kind of screwed in this. And that's the ultimate thing, the thing connecting all three of them, Tony, Garrett, as well as Armand, is like, they're all in this together. Like, if this goes sideways, Armand gets killed, goes to jail. Tony goes to jail. Garrett loses his job, can't do anything for Tony anyway. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of a lose-lose situation. So they have to cooperate. So Armand doesn't trust the FBI to keep up their end of the deal. So he's like, you know. So, and Tony's the mediator between this, and it makes sense. She was playing both sides from the beginning, and it's because for her, it's like, she even made it clear, like, I'm not going to betray Armand because he saved my life that night. It's like, oh, you think he killed Theo? No, that was Hayek's son that did it. It's like, oh, is that what Armand told you? It's like, no, I saw it. They had me clean up Theo's blood, and if it wasn't for Armand, I would be dead right now. He saved my life, so I owe him. I will not betray him. You add in all that he's done for the Luca too, so it's like, all right, Garrett's like, all right, fine. If we can set this all up to be like, all right, so it's what I thought. We're going to set the whole, like, I knew Armand could take advantage of this situation and remove Hayek from the board. He doesn't even have to kill Hayek, because if he killed Hayek, all the people loyal to Hayek, like that, he'd be taking the keys to the throne in a very bloody way, and a lot of people would not support him, because this is Hayek's operation, so removing Hayek from the board isn't enough because he's got his own way to handle all of this. Luckily, Nadia didn't like that a lot of stuff had to be done behind her back because it's like, oh, cool, you came up with this plan. You didn't talk to me about it. Oh, but you sure as hell talked to the cleaning lady about it. It's like, oh, like Nadia's got, which is so sad because it's like the circumstance. It seemed like from the beginning, like, oh, they might be friends. It's like, nope, because you're potentially the other woman, and I don't like that because you're encroaching upon my life. I wondered, is Nadia just gonna be like, I don't care, do whatever you want to, as long we can keep up appearances, blah blah blah. It's just for this, you know. I don't know whether she is threatened by Tony. I think she is, but in her mind, she was probably like, you're not a threat to me. You're just kind of annoying just because I just would have thought like we would have set up a friendship thing, but I always knew it was going to be like an Armand and Tony thing. I wasn't sure. That's why I expected the relationship between him and Nadia to dissolve, especially because he was already in love with someone else before that too, and that was Isabel. So I'm like, I mean, it's Isabella. I always do that. Like it's either Isabel or Isabella. I think it's Isabella. Nevertheless, Nadia was there to kind of smooth things over with Noah. So it's like, cool, the deal's going through. But also, Armand has set things in motion that he is like, no, I'm gonna make this whole situation beneficial to me, which Tony is like, if you do this, the FBI is not going to respond. Like, I'm going to get arrested. You could get arrested, if worse, killed. Yeah, but he's like, yeah, either way, if like it turns out like I get found out as a rat, like it could end up being that way too. That's why he was initially against it. But like I said, I do love that Tony is the mediator, bringing everyone together. Like, right, let's sit down, let's talk this out. And like even Armand being like, I'm only doing this because of Tony. So it's like, fine, I'll do this for you, but I'm not gonna wear a wire. And when it's all done, you're gonna leave Tony alone. She's gonna be left alone. She's no longer gonna be your informant. And Garrett's like, all right. Win, because I get to keep my job. She gets to stay here and not go to jail. You get to not go to jail and or die. So everybody wins. So it's like, yeah, I think it's very befitting for all three of them to be in the same room, like in that scene together like that. It's like everything's been leading up to this like moment of this sit down, you know? It's just obviously like it's just poetic, just yeah. And there you have Tony, who's been stuck between these two men in her life for various different reasons, have brought them into. I mean, it's all connected, but different sides of everything: the criminal sides of things, the law side of things, and there she is, kind of stuck in the middle between both. So obviously, like things between Garrett and Russo aren't too good because she was like, yeah, like you know. He doesn't like the position that he kind of got put in, but she was like, no, you kind of betrayed me. Like you you manipulated me. You know, we are friends, but you kind of like soured that with the way you handle things. So it's like, all right, everything's good. But, like I said, your boy Armand's got stuff planned. And I was like, all right, the fact is he had that outfit ready. I was like, what is that for? And it's like, okay. So I was curious about, I wonder is that why Armand, like, did Armand set that up so that, because it's like, yeah, Hayek was like, oh, we're going to pick a different room. It's like, there's no way he just happens to pick a different room. It's like, oh, there's another room available. Either, like, I don't know if Armand accounted for that. Like, he set it up so that room would be available. And he knew, like, either he had suggested it to Hayek, like, oh, yeah, there's a better room, just so they wouldn't have all the evidence they needed to kind of screw them over. But it's like, yeah, they were waiting on the guns. They were waiting on the deal and everything. It is interesting, too, to hear, like, Noah and Hayek talk. Because it's like, oh, yeah, like, what Noah's into. Because he's a guy that's like, oh, we need to kind of change the way we're heading and in the direction for this world. Hayek's like, yeah, but, like, everything that's going on. Like, you want to handle saving the world this way. Like, obviously, he has his way of wanting to save the world. Especially with everything back home. So it was just kind of an interesting conversation. I don't know if Noah ever really explained what he was going to do with those guns anyway. I don't remember. Oh yeah, I also forgot. Like, it's an important part of the story is Armand going to Hayek's daughter and is like, all right, so yeah, your dad. He what does he do? He sells guns, and he being completely on. He's like, I know a way to protect yourself. I'm like, okay, because like her name is associated with all this. I mean, granted, it was a means to an end, but I do believe it's. Would they have ever come after her? Maybe, because like it probably is the thing of her name is all over the company, so it probably is the thing of if he ever get dragged down, like she would too, and she is someone that he loves and cares about because she is an innocent person in all of this. Because that was also the thing too that Armand was trying to get at too. Like Tony, yes, she cleaned up some stuff, but she was never like in. So like that's why he was very protective of her too. Because once again, they're both people doing whatever they can for the sake of making their way in the world to get what they need and want to protect the people they care about. Once again, he became who he became for the sake of his father, but it ended up like ruining their relationship, and everything Tony's done has been for the sake of her family, for the sake of her son, you know? So. But especially when like they were on 3 different levels, it's like, okay, Samantha's here, Tony gets off on 37. I figure you wouldn't want to be anywhere near that. So like Fee's the one going to 38, and then she's like hiding her face as like Hayek and the others are doing their thing, and then she leaves. Like the fact that she left the cart there, I'm like, what's this all about? And so when it came time and everybody got arrested, like he put a flash drive up there. I'm like, what is that about? Oh, and then it turns out it's crypto stuff like that. Right, it's a new age deal. Like either Noah's that type of person that's all about the new age, like of just like, oh yeah, that's how we handle money, or just it's so interesting that I guess, well, if they found it on him, they probably would have figured like, oh, that's what it is. Because it's a very old-fashioned deal. He did bring a suitcase and stuff, but obviously like Armand had accounted for all that. So he wanted, you know, the perception of it all to be like, oh, like, I'll throw in a case of that bourbon will knock off 5%. And he's like, you got it. So I was like, I didn't know what, it didn't even cross my mind to think like, oh, of course the bourbon's going to be in there. So it's like, I thought that was kind of a nice turn of events. So everybody gets arrested. Fee left it. She was kind of excited being a part of it. She's like, oh my God, like, how's there this much money? Like, how it's like that just on this flash drive? It's like cryptocurrency. It's like, oh my God. So it all worked out. And then it's just kind of like Hayek and, your boy, I was curious what Armand was going to do. Like, he knew that they would back out of the deal, so he did prepare himself. And he was right, because at the end of the day, they didn't let him go. They kept him locked up. And it's like, yeah, Garrett's like, yeah, take all of them away. It's like, regardless of it all, it's like, despite it being a thing of, okay, he is, he's not the one who killed Theo. You have Tony's word on it, but he still was like, yeah, like he knew that, like, no, we're not going to let you just walk away, Armand. You are a criminal. So he was right to set everything in motion, but it all worked out because now Hayek thinks like, oh my God, you saved my life because Noah attacked him thinking it was a setup. And now he thinks like Noah was the setup. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm sorry, Armand. No, I'm sorry, Hayek. I vetted him, and Armand Hayek's like, I vetted him too. He was a rat. Oh well. It's like, yeah, don't ever want to get those two started talking. But Hayek's like, right. The fact is, you protected me. You saved my life. I got my lawyers. I can get you out early. I think my lawyers. But you betray me again. Me being locked away won't save you. He's like, I understand. I was like, you walk away with the keys to the castle. Because at first I was like, yeah, you're trying to get out, but. Like Hayek said, nothing. It will never be enough for you. You're always going to want more power and prestige. That's also the thing too. Like, I think Nadia's just the same way. I think she won't ever admit it, but I think she's exactly the same way as Armand. Like, she enjoys the power and position and stuff like that. So Armand's kind of where they both wanted him to be. I was curious whether or not Tony was going to feel a certain way about that, but it's also like, right, you do whatever you need to, like, I don't, you know, and if I can do something good, take that bad, do some good with it, then it all works out in the end. So now Armand's got the keys to the castle, he's got the crown now, and he talks to Tony, and he gives her, like, the codes and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, I might be locked up for now. It's like, oh, what are you going to do? She's like, well, you know, since you're here and since you're in the situation you're in, I guess I'll stay. He's like, oh, you're staying in here in Vegas. All right, good. And he gives her the codes. She passes it on to Nadia, which Nadia is like, you may have the purse strings now, but you still work for me. It's like, she had to make that clear. Don't get it twisted. You have your role to play in this, but you still work for me. And so I was like, yeah, well, if Armand locked away for now, and that's definitely going to make that relation, because like there's going to be a lot more interactions between them. So Nadia's not happy about that whatsoever, but. And of course, what song did they have to play? Of course, is going to be Billie Eilish. Obviously, like, I don't know if, like, I'd say, like, it's hard to say between, I'd say Bad Guy probably ends up being the bigger song, but, like, You Should See Me in a Crown gets played a lot too. Obviously, it's very befitting because I'm even using the metaphor for the crown. I mean, even I think that was the title of the episode, The Crown, anyway. So it's all reciprocal and all works out. It's also a banger, and it just like it sets the mood. It's a really good song just for that too. I mean, also it's Billie Eilish. She's like easily popped up to be one. Like her and her brother just have really like obviously made a big splash and made a name for themselves in the musical world. So it's like, of course, like anytime you can get an opportunity to pay, like license out some Billie Eilish music for your thing, people are going to. Which I'm like, once again, it always makes you wonder, like, what the hell are those licensing prices? Like, that's got to be. I don't know. Maybe it's not as expensive. You would think that's probably like super expensive. I don't know. I'm always curious to find out like how much a song is worth. You know. Regardless, because I'm sure it's like that feels so like so interesting to put like a monetary value to like how much it would cost to license out this song, and it's always interesting. But yeah, it works out in the end. Once again, there's a stipulation of Marco took Luca, so I'm not surprised by that sting. But I am curious. Like now, like not even Fee. Like Chris already had his issues with you after last episode, the way you talked to his mom. Fee's going to have issue with the fact that you just took off of Luca, but once again, he's going to justify it by being like, she did the same thing to me a year ago, and I'm not going to have my son mixed up in this criminal world. It's like, once again, there's some legitimacy there, but there's also like, I feel like there's some pettiness because it's just like, right, she did it to you, so you did it to her, but also it is the thing of, there's a little bit of your ego too, being like, he might, it's not just a criminal thing, it's like, it's Armand being Armand, you don't like that, you think there's something going on between him and Tony, which there kind of is, so... But, Tony did tell, like, Fee, like, hey, we're going to open up this place. And it's like, I was curious how Fee was going to be. She was almost like, wait, what? So it's like, we're going to clean for Armand, but it is going to be a place like we work for ourselves. We become the bosses. This way, we don't have to work for jerky people. We can bring on, like, other people like Samantha who don't want to work for someone else. So it all benefits us in the long run. So there's that. And so also she's like, I'll open up a clinic in the back. I was lucky with Luca. Not everyone else is going to be. So anyone in our situation, I'm going to help them. I'm going to do it for those people who are undocumented, uninsured. So I'm going to do that. She is a doctor by trade. So to be able to help people out, all that for the purpose of taking something that is kind of bad, working for a criminal, and doing something good with it. In the long run for her, it's like, that's all that matters. And the Fee was a lot more on board than I thought she would be. But I guess it's like, right, whatever it takes to kind of work everything out, it's fine. Especially because, like, they're going to, like, it doesn't matter. Like, they might be doing some shady stuff, but the business itself will be theirs. It will be legitimate. So it all works out. But it's still like, Fee's getting dragged deeper into this. So I think it is kind of exciting, but you would thought there'd be more pushback from that. To be fair, I thought there was going to be way more pushback from Tony at the beginning, but she saw an opportunity to take advantage of the situation, and she did, to her benefit. Garrett's done with Tony for now, but I doubt we've seen the last of Garrett, because it sucks because it's like, right, everyone that got locked up because there was no money, there was no transactional thing, like, they'll eventually all get off, like, after a while. But then Hayek's daughter shows up, handing everything over, and even Hayek was kind of disappointed about it. I was even betrayed my own daughter. My idiot son is now wanted for murder. It's like, luckily he's not in the country anymore. Which part of me is like, nah, it's probably going to come back up where he's going to come back to the country for whatever reason. And that's going to be a whole lane of issues. But we'll cross that bridge potentially when we get there. But like I said, a very, very exciting season finale. Like I said, don't want Noah and Hayek to ever talk, because then it's going to be a little, Hayek's not, and also, like, once again, if he had taken the keys to the throne bloody, like, he wouldn't have gotten a lot of the support. But now it's like, no, Hayek gave me the keys to the castle. Then it's like, it all works out. Like, it legitimizes his position, and once again, it all works out for Armand, who claimed to be walking away. But it's like, no, the moment you had an opportunity, you were going to look out for yourself. And once again, he was right to do it, because he was about to get screwed over by the FBI. So his insurance policy worked out in many different facets. So. But, because Hayek is going to go down for a long time, because his daughter handed over all the records and stuff. It's like, I want nothing to do with my father. I want you to know, like, leave me and my husband out of this. So Garrett also gets an extra win. There's still the Armand thing, which I'm sure he's going to keep his eyes out for Armand. But, we'll see how that plays out. At the time of me recording this, which it is March 16th today, when this potential will be going up, there still is no word whether or not there is going to be a second season. It's still up in the air. Fox hasn't officially given notice or anything. I hope they give this show a second season. I think the shows once again, I don't know how this compares to the original Argentinian series, but I think that's a one-off. That might, but also like the U.S. handles TV way different than other countries. A lot of countries will typically make things shorter. It's like but the U.S. is very big on letting stuff run for very, very long time. Canada can probably go in that same lane too, but I think a lot of especially stuff in the East, probably doesn't, like a lot of British stuff. I think a lot of Asian television typically doesn't run for many, many, many seasons. I think if something does, it's usually an exception. So the U.S. is kind of typically the only ones when it comes to television and letting stuff run for many, many seasons. But regardless, I hope we do get a season 2. I'd love to see where it takes us. Obviously, maybe we dive a little bit more into Marco and Fee's family, especially with Marco. Has he already gotten out of the country yet? Or was Tony able to get to him before he ended up leaving? Because how long has it been since he left? Questions like that. We haven't really touched on Tony's family stuff too much. I'm wondering if there's going to be anything there. Since we're talking about families, let's also not forget about Armand's dad. I'm sure that'd play a role, because I'm sure his dad's not going to be too copacetic. It's you working for Hayek, it's one thing. You having the keys to the castle is a whole other thing, a whole other lane, and a whole other issue. So we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, the whole Nadia and Tony seeing each other more and more, how that play out. Her and Fee running the more legitimate business. How long it is before Armand gets out. Like I said, if Garrett keeps an eye on him, which he will, what his job prospects, what his circumstances are going to look like, because he got a big win. Not only did they get all those guns, which was a big win, but now with Hayek's daughter's help, they ended up taking down Hayek. So we'll see how that all pans out in a potential second season. So fingers crossed, hoping there is a new season. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.